The xenobiology lecture hall fell into a silence so profound that Professor Krell's respiratory vents became audible across the amphitheater. 23 species, 47 students, and not one dared to move. The source of their terror sat calmly beside Dr. Sarah Chen's desk, its obsidian scales catching the bioluminescent light. A Korthax cub no more than 6 standard months old but already the size of a Terran wolf. Its triple rows of crystalline teeth were partially visible as its maw hung open, tasting the air with a forked tongue that could detect fear pheromones from 50 meters away, and it had just growled. The sound had been low, primal, the kind of vocalization that evolution had hardwired into every sentient species as a warning. Even the Thoraxians, who stood 2.5 meters tall and were descended from ambush predators themselves, had pressed their chitinous bodies against the far wall. Dr. Chen, however, simply glanced down at the creature. "Good boy," she said, reaching down to scratch behind the ridge where the Korthax's auditory organs were located. The cub's eyes, all 6 of them, closed in evident pleasure. A deep rumbling sound emanated from its chest, not unlike a Terran cat's purr, if that cat weighed 90 kilograms and could bite through reinforced hull plating. Professor Krell's skin cycled through 3 different colors before settling on a distressed purple. "Dr. Chen," he said, his translator struggling to convey the proper mixture of horror and incredulity, "that is a Korthax." "Yes," Sarah agreed, not looking up from the datapad she was reviewing. "This is Razor. He's assisting with today's practical demonstration on predator behavior and pack bonding." A Vexillian student in the 3rd row made a sound that the translator rendered as terrified. Chittering. Sarah couldn't blame them. The Vexillians had lost an entire colony to a Korthax pack 40 years ago. Even now, Korthax were classified as Class 7 apex predators, the highest threat level in Galactic Council records. They hunted in coordinated packs, showed complex problem-solving abilities, and had never in recorded history been domesticated. The key word being never. Pack bonding. Professor Krell's voice rose an octave. "Dr. Chen, the Korthax don't bond. They're obligate carnivores with no social structure beyond temporary hunting formations. They've been studied for 3 centuries. Every your attempt," Sarah interrupted gently, finally looking up from her datapad. She met the professor's eyes, and something in her expression made him fall silent. "You've tried to dominate them, train them through fear and punishment, break their will. Humans tried that with wolves once, about 40,000 years ago. It didn't work then either." She stood, and Razor immediately rose with her, his shoulder reaching her hip. The students pressed back further, several making for the exits until Sarah raised a hand. "Please stay. You're in no danger. Razor's eaten recently, and besides," she smiled, "I'm part of his pack." "Impossible," breathed a crystalline scholar whose name Sarah couldn't pronounce. Its translated voice carried certainty born of thousands of academic studies. "Korthax don't imprint on other species. Their neural architecture doesn't allow for cross-species social bonding." "Doesn't allow or hadn't allowed before?" Sarah asked. She reached into her pocket, and every student tensed. What she pulled out, however, was merely a small object wrapped in synth cloth. "Razor, sit." The Korthax cub sat, its tail curling around its haunches, eyes fixed on Sarah's hand. "The thing about humans," Sarah continued, unwrapping what appeared to be a dried piece of meat, "is that we're really good at making friends with things that want to eat us. We've done it with wolves, with horses, with birds that could tear out our eyes, with reptiles whose venom could kill us in minutes. On Earth, there's a saying, give a human something dangerous, and within a generation, either we'll have made a pet of it, or died trying." She tossed the treat, and Razor caught it midair with reflexes that made several students flinch. The crunch of the treat echoed through the silent hall. "The secret," Sarah said, walking around her desk to stand beside Razor, "isn't dominance. It's partnership. It's respect. When I found Razor, he was 3 weeks old, abandoned by his pack, probably because he was born with a weaker hunting instinct, which ironically made him perfect. I didn't try to break him. I fed him, played with him, protected him when he was vulnerable, and he—" She placed her hand on Razor's head between 2 of his eyes. He chose to stay. Razor leaned into her touch, and the purring sound intensified. Professor Krell approached cautiously, fascination overcoming fear. This could revolutionize our understanding of predator psychology. If Korthax can be socialized, if they can form genuine bonds, the implications for colony defense, for ecological management, maybe, Sarah said. But I didn't do this for revolution. I did it because he needed someone, and I had room in my life for another companion. She smiled down at Razor. Earth taught us that the most dangerous predators make the most loyal friends. You just have to be willing to see the person behind the teeth. Razor looked up at her, all 6 eyes reflecting the lecture hall's lights, and in that moment, the class saw something they'd never considered possible. Not a monster, but a student himself, learning to navigate a universe alongside his unusual packmate. Professor Krell's skin finally settled into a thoughtful green. Perhaps, he said slowly, we have much to learn from humanity about the nature of connection. Sarah scratched Razor's favorite spot again, earning another pleased growl, though this time, no one flinched. Good boy, she whispered. Very good boy.